Hey guys, the Strong Boys 19 here, and I'm back to do another review on more 2012 releases. So for this review, I'm going to be reviewing the new album from Steve Harris entitled British Lion. So this is Steve's first debut album, and we all know who Steve Harris is. Steve is one of the founders and the bassist of the infamous British heavy metal band Iron Maiden. So he became a solo artist, and like I said, this is his first debut album. So it was leaked on a couple of websites, and the album is going to be officially released tomorrow. So I checked out the whole album, the full streaming of the album at the Metal Hammer website. So I gave the album a shot, and this is just going to be a review on my opinions and thoughts on this album. So yeah, this album is basically very different than what you can listen to all of these albums from Iron Maiden, and also some solo work from Bruce Dickinson. His solo work is different when you listen to Iron Maiden's music. So yeah, what do I think about British Lion from Steve Harris? This album is basically a mixed bag for me. I really do not hate this album. It's just that this album is basically one of those moments where I just try to get into this album, but I just simply can't. But with that being said, this album to me is, like I said, very mixed. So I prefer the works from Iron Maiden, basically, and a lot of you guys are going to be agreeing with me on that. So yeah, I checked out some of the reviews on this album. Some of them are positive, and there are some reviews on this album that are, negative. I know that Maiden Slave did not like this album, and Subsist 68 did not like this album, and this is just basically an album that is just okay. So yeah, this whole album is over 52 minutes long, and that is a pretty long full album length for a debut album. So I think this album is just basically not one of my favorites on the top 25 list, so that's not going to be added in the list, sadly. So yeah, it has 10 tracks, and I'm going to give you guys a bit more detail on this album. First off, the music itself. The music on this album is pretty good. I mean, there are just some moments on this album that sounded a bit different than just, like proper heavy metal from a few tracks, but most of the tracks sounded, a bit more of a heavy metal type of style. So the music itself is not bad. It's just pretty cool. But here's the thing that confused me. When you look at the name Steve Harris on the album artwork, and when you listen to this album can be a bit misleading at times. So this album is basically, like a full band project or effort, whatever you want to call it. So Steve Harris only did the bass guitar work on this whole album. Now, Steve really should have been the vocalist, because he started this whole thing up. He started it all to make his solo work. When you compare other solo artists. You know, Serge Tankian, he started his solo project and he became, you know, the vocalist, and he played some other instruments and, you know, others. But Steve Harris did not do the vocals on this album. He just did the bass guitar work, like I said. The vocals from Richard Taylor on this album, to me, are not really, really powerful or great enough for me. Now, when you listen to Iron Maiden's music or Bruce Dickinson's work, Bruce Dickinson's vocals on those albums are really strong and really, really powerful. But Richard's vocals on this album is just, you know, okay. They are just not really mind-blowing. You know, some people said that the vocals on this album are terrible, but I do not hate the vocals all the way through. They just sounded, you know, okay, but, you know, in a very mixed way. The production is just pretty good. Steve Harris did most of the production. Some of the tracks are produced by the other musicians from the group, but Steve Harris mostly on this album. So, yeah, a lot of the songs on here are not bad. You know, there are some tracks on here that I'm not a big fan of that much, but some of the parts on a lot of these tracks on this album are just, you know, pretty good. So, I'm basically here not to really bash on this album to pieces, because I'm not that type of guy that's just going to listen to it and then just bash the whole album immediately. So I just listen to the album and I just give you guys my own opinions and thoughts on these albums. So, in a way, this album to me is not terrible, it's just, you know, mixed, like I said earlier. So, it is a pretty decent album for this whole effort from Steve Harris. So, yep, that's just basically all I've got to say about Steve Harris's British Lion. And I'm going to give this album a 6 out of 10. So, yep, that basically sums it up for my review. So, thanks for watching, and I'll keep you posted, and keep it metal, guys.